Is Aubrey James, and I'm 26 years old. And these are the words my mother spat at me, sharp as glass. I wish I'd erased you before birth. You're nothing but a stain on this family. The room went silent, every eye shifting toward me. She wanted them all to see it. The humiliation, the dagger she was driving into my chest. Her voice didn't crack, her hand didn't tremble. She said it like it was fact. All because of her golden daughter. My sister. Her perfect little angel, who could lie, cheat, and betray without consequence, because I was always there, the scapegoat, the one to carry the blame. She covers for you, Mom hissed, her eyes burning into me. And what do you give us back? Nothing. You're worthless. Worthless. The word echoed, louder than the laughter that followed. Yes, they laughed. Family, neighbors, friends, like it was entertainment, like my pain was a performance at their dinner table. But I didn't flinch. I didn't fold into tears the way they wanted. I stood my ground, my glass trembling in my hand, my pulse a storm in my veins. Because one truth hummed beneath my rage, steady and sharp. What happens when the one you erase refuses to disappear? I locked eyes with my sister, her smug little smile curling at the edges. She thought this would never end, that I would always stay the family shadow, the easy target. But shadows only exist when light is blocked. And that night, as my mother's words scorched me raw in front of everyone, I made a silent vow. They would regret this. The golden child's lies. My mother's cruelty. The years of humiliation carved into my skin. It would all come undone, because the stain they mocked, it doesn't fade. It spreads. And when it does, it leaves nothing of their perfect life standing. The echo of her words clung to me long after the plates were cleared. I wish I'd erased you before birth. They thought it would break me. Instead, it carved something sharper into my bones, resolve. I sat through the rest of the evening in silence. Every laugh at my expense, every dismissive glance from relatives, searing itself into memory. My sister, Olivia, leaned back in her chair like royalty, sipping her wine while Mom defended her every word. She's just stressed, Olivia cooed when a cousin looked uneasy. She didn't mean it. But I saw the satisfaction flicker in her eyes. She loved this, me being the family joke, the punching bag. I kept quiet, because sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is the sharpest blade. When the dinner finally ended, I slipped into my room, shutting the door against their laughter. My laptop hummed to life on the desk, and with each click, I reminded myself, humiliation is temporary. Receipts are permanent. For months, I had been keeping records, screenshots, messages, bank statements that didn't add up. Olivia's perfect life was a carefully built tower of lies. Money she skimmed from Dad's accounts, favors she traded behind closed doors, grades she never truly earned. Mom knew pieces of it. She covered for her. She made excuses. She told me to stay quiet for the family's sake. But I wasn't quiet anymore. At midnight, I made calls. Calm, calculated calls. An old teacher who had confided suspicions. A neighbor who once mentioned seeing Olivia sneaking home with someone else's husband. A manager who whispered about missing funds. Every thread I pulled, and the fabric of her perfection began to fray. The next morning, while Mom fussed over Olivia's breakfast like she was royalty, I sat at the table with my phone buzzing. Notifications poured in, confirmation emails, forwarded evidence, people eager to talk once they realized I wasn't afraid anymore. Olivia smirked at me across the table. What's wrong, Stain? Still sulking. I smiled back for the first time in years. No. Just getting started. Her fork froze midair. Because she had no idea the avalanche I had already set in motion. By tonight, the lies she had built her empire on would be nothing but rubble. And Mom? She would finally see the daughter she worshipped for what she truly was. By noon, the phone calls had turned into meetings. People who had once stayed silent now wanted their voices heard. It was like a dam breaking. Suddenly, everyone had a story about Olivia. The college professor who suspected she had plagiarized entire essays. The boutique owner who said her unpaid balance stretched into the thousands. The HR manager whispering that Olivia wasn't the star employee she claimed to be, but a liability one signature away from termination. Every truth she buried was crawling into the light. And I was the one holding the lantern. I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. The humiliation from last night still pulsed in my chest like a bruise that wouldn't fade. My mother's words, her laughter, her dismissal. She hadn't just chosen Olivia over me. She had erased me. But the more I pieced together Olivia's perfect mask, the stronger my resolve grew. At 4 p.m., the first crack appeared. Dad came storming into the living room, phone in hand, his face a storm cloud. "Olivia," he barked, "why did the bank call me about overdraft notices?" Olivia's smile faltered, but only for a second. "It's nothing, Dad. Just a mistake." I watched her scramble, her voice dripping with honey as she tried to smooth it over. But I saw the twitch in her jaw. The mask was slipping. Mom swooped in immediately. "Don't raise your voice at her. Aubrey is the one always snooping around. I'm sure she's stirring things up." And there it was. The knife twisted again. My mother would rather blame me, her stain, than face the truth about her precious Olivia. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. Because right then my phone buzzed again. A message from the bank representative I'd spoken with last night. "Aubrey, we've traced the transfers. You should probably see this." Attached were records, line after line of transactions. Thousands of dollars siphoned off Dad's account. All signed, authorized by Olivia. But one detail made my pulse stop cold. Some of those transfers weren't just to Olivia. They were to Mom's account. The golden child wasn't lying alone. She had a partner. My mother. The same mother who spat she wished I'd never been born. Suddenly, her cruelty wasn't just emotional. It was survival. She wasn't defending Olivia out of love. She was defending herself. And that meant exposing Olivia would drag her down, too. For the first time, I understood the depth of what I was about to unravel. And I promised myself I would not stop. The numbers blurred on the screen as I scrolled through the transfers again and again. My mother wasn't just covering for Olivia. She was cashing in. Every overdraft, every accident swept under the rug. It all made sense now. And suddenly, her venom toward me burned in a new light. I wasn't just unwanted. I was dangerous. Because unlike Olivia, I noticed. I paid attention. I remembered the details others ignored. That made me a threat. I stared at the glowing phone in my hand and whispered to myself, "She doesn't hate me because I'm weak. She hates me because I'm the only one who can ruin her." By 6 p.m., whispers were already circling through the family group chat. A cousin texted me privately, "Is it true about Olivia?" Dad said something about missing money. I didn't answer. Not yet. Timing mattered. At dinner, the tension was thick enough to cut. Olivia looked pale, her smile stretched too tight. Mom hovered protectively beside her, shooting daggers at me every time I lifted my glass. Dad sat stiffly, jaw clenched, checking his phone every few minutes. I wanted to scream, to throw the evidence in their faces, to demand an apology for every cruel word, every humiliation. But revenge isn't loud. It's patient, precise, silent until it crushes. So I chewed slowly, nodded when spoken to, and let them believe I was sulking. When dinner ended, Olivia retreated to her room. I slipped outside onto the porch, my phone in hand. The night air was cool, the sky ink black. And then it rang. The bank representative again. His voice was low, urgent. "Aubrey, there's more. We found that some of these transfers, they weren't just to cover debts. Someone's been moving money into a private account. Offshore. Both your sister and your mother signed." I froze. Offshore. Secret. Hidden. The stain of betrayal ran deeper than I thought. It wasn't just lies. It was theft, deliberate and calculated. As I hung up, I caught sight of the living room window. Through the glass, I saw my mother's face, pale against the lamplight, watching me from inside. She knew. She knew I was onto her. And the look in her eyes wasn't maternal. It was fear. That's when I realized. The game had already shifted. They thought they were erasing me.
But now?
They were terrified of me. Fear has a smell. That night, I could taste it in the air every time my mother glanced at me. She followed me into the kitchen as I rinsed my glass. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. You're always looking for trouble, Aubrey. Don't dig into things you don't understand. I turned slowly, meeting her eyes. Then explain it to me. Help me understand. Her mask cracked for half a second. Then she straightened her shoulders, cold as marble. You've always been jealous of your sister. This obsession of yours will destroy you. But I wasn't the one crumbling. She was. That night, I sat cross-legged on my bed, my laptop glowing in the dark. My inbox filled with messages, documents forwarded, testimonies offered, screenshots piling higher and higher. It wasn't just Olivia's reputation at stake anymore. It was Mom's freedom. By dawn, I had a folder thick enough to bury them both. The evidence of fraud, theft, academic dishonesty, even whispers of affairs Olivia had dangled to get ahead. A dossier of destruction, and every page had their names stamped across it. At 9 a.m., Dad knocked on my door. He looked tired, lines carved deeper into his face overnight. He held a letter in his hand. It came from the bank, he muttered. Do you know anything about this? I wanted to tell him everything right there, to unload the truth and let the fallout consume them. But as he spoke, Olivia appeared behind him, silk robe draped like a queen, hair flawless as ever. She smirked at me, as if daring me to open my mouth. Mom hovered behind her, eyes sharp, lips tight. For a moment I hesitated. The weight of all their cruelty pressed down on me. The urge to scream, to fight, to demand recognition, it pulsed like fire in my chest. But then I thought of every humiliation. Every dinner where I was mocked. Every time Mom called me a stain. Every time Olivia laughed while I bled inside. And I smiled. A quiet, terrifying smile. Not yet, I told Dad softly. But you will. Their faces shifted, confusion, irritation, a flicker of unease. Because they didn't realize the trap was already closing. I had arranged a meeting, tonight, with people who mattered. By the time the sun set, Olivia and Mom wouldn't just be humiliated. They would be exposed. The clock ticked louder than my heartbeat as evening fell. By 7 p.m., the house buzzed with the usual chaos. Mom bragging on the phone, Olivia posting selfies in her designer dress, Dad pacing in silence. But beneath it all, there was a tension humming low, invisible to them but sharp to me. They thought the day had passed, and I'd let things go. They always underestimated me. At 8 p.m., I slipped out, heels clicking against the driveway. The black sedan waiting by the curb wasn't family, wasn't friends. It was the bank investigator, the lawyer, and 2 family friends who had finally had enough of Olivia's lies. We drove downtown, the city lights flashing like warning signs. Inside the quiet conference room, I laid it all out. The forged signatures, the offshore account, the transfers funneled through Dad's name without his knowledge. The lawyer's eyes narrowed. This isn't just fraud. This is federal. Your sister and mother could face prison. The words should have felt heavy. But instead, they lifted something off me. For once, it wasn't me standing on trial. It was them. When I returned home at 10:15, the living room lights were blazing. They were waiting. Mom's face was tight with suspicion. Where were you? Olivia leaned back on the couch, legs crossed, smirking. Probably at her pathetic grocery job. Dreaming she's important. Her laugh clawed at me, but I didn't flinch. I walked past them, calm, collected, letting silence sting harder than words. Because I knew what was coming. At 9:14 p.m., while I was still in that downtown office, the bank had already made their call. Straight to Dad. Straight to the man they thought would always look the other way. And I saw it in his eyes now.
The storm building.
The betrayal settling. Dad stood abruptly, shoving papers onto the table. Bank statements. Letters.
Proof.
Enough, he thundered. His voice cut through the room like a blade. Do you two have any idea what you've done to this family? Mom blanched. Olivia sputtered. Their perfect facade cracked under the weight of truth. But before I could savor it, Dad turned to me. His gaze wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. It was wary, as if he was wondering how I'd managed to uncover what he had missed for years. And in that moment I realized the next battle wasn't just against them. It was against everyone. The house had never been so quiet. Not even the hum of the fridge or the tick of the old clock dared to interrupt what had just unfolded. Dad's hands trembled as he gripped the stack of statements. He wasn't looking at Mom. He wasn't looking at Olivia. He was staring at me, almost as if I were the intruder. Mom broke the silence first, her voice high-pitched, desperate. "She's lying, Daniel. She's always been jealous, always scheming to tear this family apart." But Olivia's composure cracked. She leapt forward, grabbing the papers, flipping frantically. "This doesn't mean anything. Everyone moves money around." "It's not." Dad cut her off with a roar I'd never heard before. "Not into offshore accounts with forged signatures." Olivia froze, her face pale, lips quivering. Mom grabbed her wrist, pulling her back, like a queen shielding her heir. "Daniel, listen to me. We did this for the family. For stability. You don't understand." But Dad wasn't listening. His eyes flicked between them, then back to me, and for the first time I saw something new there, fear and respect colliding. He finally understood I wasn't the weak one. I was the only one standing tall. Still, his voice dropped into suspicion. "Aubrey, how did you get this? Who's helping you?" I met his gaze, without flinching. "The truth doesn't need help, Dad. It just needs someone brave enough to drag it into the light." For a moment, I thought he might thank me, but instead, he sank into the armchair, burying his head in his hands. Because the truth wasn't just about them anymore. It was about him, too. The account wasn't in Mom's name alone. Some of the signatures were his. And whether he was complicit or careless, I couldn't yet tell. But Mom saw the opening and pounced. "See? She's trying to ruin you too. Don't let her manipulate you." Olivia nodded, eyes wet. "Dad, she wants everything for herself. She'll destroy us just to feel important." Their words slithered across the room, trying to choke me out. But I stood straighter, fire in my chest. Because I wasn't destroying this family. I was revealing what it truly was. And tomorrow, when the lawyer called again, everyone outside these walls would know it too. The stain they branded me with? By morning, it would be their legacy. Morning came with no mercy. The lawyer's call rang through the kitchen at exactly 9 a.m. The sound cut through the stale air like a funeral bell. Dad answered with trembling hands. "Yes, yes, I understand." When he hung up, the silence was heavier than the night before. Mom's face was drained of color. Olivia stood rigid, clutching her phone like it might save her. "The bank is freezing the accounts," Dad said flatly. "Investigations will begin immediately." Olivia gasped. "But my tuition, my apartment." Mom snapped, her mask shattering. "Do you have any idea what you've done, Aubrey? You've ruined us." Her words didn't sting anymore. They fell flat, empty, powerless. Because for the first time, I wasn't the one begging to be seen. They were. That evening, whispers spread across town. The golden daughter wasn't golden anymore. The mother who paraded perfection now hid behind drawn curtains. Invitations stopped. Friends pulled away. Respect, once demanded, evaporated like smoke. And me? I walked down Main Street with my head high. The same people who once looked at me with pity now looked at me with something sharper, curiosity, even admiration. Not because I sought revenge in fire or fury, but because I let the truth do what truth always does, burn away the lies until only ash remained. Dad avoided me for days, shame etched into every line of his face. But one evening, he stopped me in the hallway. "You were right," he said quietly. "I should have protected you. Instead, I let them break you." I didn't answer. Some wounds don't heal with words. But when I closed my bedroom door that night, I finally breathed freely. Because I hadn't just survived their cruelty. I had outlived it. The stain my mother saw in me had become the mirror reflecting her own corruption. The embarrassment they tried to pin on me had become their downfall. And the daughter they mocked at every dinner table? She had carved her own seat, at a table they'd never touch again. My name is Aubrey Miller, and I'm not a stain. I'm the scar they'll never forget.